Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Village Board for Monday, December the 5th, 2020. It's my pleasure to introduce our village clerk, Pramod Shah, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to ask for a motion to permit Trustee Pure Slovan to participate in this evening's meeting via Zoom. Motion Trustee Kuhn, seconded by Trustee Robinson. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutkar.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovan. Trustee
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Windus.
Aye, the motion passes. I would call the meeting to order, and this is a little redundant, but the clerk will call the roll officially, please.
Trustee Sutkar.
Here.
Trustee Robinson.
Here.
Trustee Kuhn.
Here.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Pure Slovan.
Here.
Trustee Klein.
Here.
Mayor Windus.
Here, we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. A motion would be in order. Trustee Johnson, seconded by Trustee Klein. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody wishes to have removed? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutkar.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovan.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Windus.
Aye, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is award presentations. The 2022 Skokie Award for Artistic Excellence, presented by the Skokie Fine Arts Commission. And it's my pleasure to introduce the chair, Pam Gabardini. Pam?
Good evening. I would like to take a moment first to acknowledge the other members of the Fine Arts Commission who are with me this evening. If you could just stand up, that would be wonderful. Thanks. Every year, the Skokie Fine Arts Commission gives an award to an individual and a group who have demonstrated artistic excellence. Judging criteria includes visibility in the Skokie community, scope of artistic talents, breadth of impact, recognition and awards the artist has received in Skokie and the region. Recipients receive a plaque and have their names added to a perpetual plaque that's on display at the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts in Skokie. Our first award tonight, we are proud to present our Individual Artistic Excellence Award to Jennifer Page. Jennifer has been the orchestra director at Niles North High School since 2013. In addition to almost doubling the size of the program at Niles North, Jennifer established string programs at Golf and McCracken schools. Up until 2013, Old Orchard Junior High was the only Niles North feeder school with an orchestra program. Jennifer recognized the need and has produced a robust number of orchestra students who have continued their participation in orchestra at Niles North. Jennifer also created the popular extracurricular Viking Strings, an alternative string performing ensemble. One of Jennifer's guiding philosophies is that playing music in an orchestra creates connection and community in a way that is profound to a young person. This is also reflected in numerous community events at which her students have performed. Other orchestra endeavors have included performance and cultural tours to various U.S. cities, as well as welcoming diverse musicians into her classrooms to collaborate with her students. In her own words, one of Jennifer's goals is to help her students create and appreciate the beauty in this world. Her efforts have had a profound impact on the lives of so many Skokie students and community members through her inspiration, energy, passion, compassion, creativity, and dedication. The Fine Arts Commission is honored to present Jennifer Page with this year's Award for Artistic Excellence. Jennifer? The Skokie Fine Arts Commission is proud to present our group award for artistic excellence to Robin Horwitz and the Devonshire Cultural Center. Robin has been in the arts and arts administration fields for 35 years, including work as a singer and actress. She now provides facility management for Skokie's Devonshire Cultural Center, overseeing approximately 50 staff throughout the year and up to 150 during the summer season. She supervises Devonshire Playhouse theater productions and classes, manages district special events and fund development for the arts, and supervises the summer performing arts camp. Ms. Horwitz also oversees the management of all other programming within the Cultural Center, including dance, visual arts, music, culinary arts, and early childhood and preschool programs. Robin believes that experiencing the arts is vital to a person's quality of life. She was instrumental in recently launching the Devonshire Theater Academy, which offers a comprehensive theater curriculum for ages 3 to adult. Both children and adults can learn everything from scene study to musical basics, story creation, movement, and technical production support. While Devonshire Cultural Center offers an array of theater options, there are also opportunities for all ages to take music lessons, art classes in areas such as drawing, painting, and sculpture, and dance classes in ballet, jazz, hip-hop, and aerial dancing with acrobatics. Competitive dance teams and the Devonshire Dance Ensemble round out the dance options. Integral to all programs is a continued emphasis on helping participants learn more about cooperation, social interaction, self-confidence, and creativity while having fun and making friends. The Fine Arts Commission is honored to present Robin Horwitz and the Devonshire Cultural Center with this year's Award for Artistic Excellence.
And I have a crew from the Devonshire Cultural Center, since this is a group award, and the Skokie Park District. Would y'all wave? And I think y'all need an applause for
And at this point, we have a special acknowledgement this evening for Michael Pauken, and I'd like to welcome Ann Tennis to say a few words about Michael.
Good evening. I'd like to also mention that the entire Page family and some friends are here to support Jennifer, so thank you for supporting her award. As the staff liaison to the Skokie Fine Arts Commission, it's my honor to present an award to Michael Pauken Michael is the executive director of the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts. He began his tenure at the center on December 2nd, 2002, and this coming Friday, he leaves to begin the next chapter in his life and career. Michael, the special award from the Fine Arts Commission is in recognition for all that you've done for the arts in Skokie, including hosting the Commission's beloved SOAR student art exhibition for more than a decade. Your work at the center has impacted millions of lives, literally. Pre-pandemic, the center had more than 140,000 visitors annually, and its post-pandemic audiences are quickly returning to those levels thanks to your unwavering hard work, leadership, and dedication. You have overseen center operations and programming with professionalism and excellence, focused on not only the importance of the center's role in both Skokie's commitment to the arts, but also on its ongoing contributions to the Village of Skokie's economy. Your legacy in the Village of Skokie will be lasting, with all that you've done for the center and the community. You have welcomed performances from Skokie's multicultural community and have advocated for equity by providing a platform for voices that need to be heard, like the Mike Wiley performances about the Emmett Till story, and Handicap This, featuring a young adult actor who has been quadriplegic since birth. Your work has truly touched so many, Michael, and your work has mattered. From the Fine Arts Commission and the entire village, thank you for all that you've done to support the arts in Skokie and for your 2 decades of service at the North Shore Center.
I just want to say thank you so much to the mayor and to the village officials and board. You have no idea how much this means to me. I really, really appreciate it, and thank you to the Fine Arts Commission as well. Thank you.
On a final note, I'd also like to recognize 2 members of the Village's Performing Arts Center Board who are here in support of Michael, Steve Franklin and Barb Reeder, who's the Commission's Vice Chair. Steve and Barb.
I would like to take just a moment and ask Jennifer if you would like to do some promotion, address everybody, and tell us a little bit about your work.
Sure.
Please go to the microphone.
It's really just truly been my honor to be at Niles North these last 10 years, and it's such a wonderful place, vibrant place. The students are absolutely amazing, and the programs that I've started at Golf and McCracken and this year East Prairie have really helped to boost the amount of students that can take a string instrument. When I first started, there were only 60 students in the program, and before the pandemic, there were over 120. So we're getting back up until that point. I'm also very passionate about playing alternative styles of music, and so letting the students sort of create their own music, play music from the radio that they like to listen to. And so we have a group called the Viking Strings, and we play out in the community and at concerts. And this year, I think that group is about 55 students. So it's just been such a wonderful journey. I really want to thank all of you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I hadn't planned anything, but so happy to be here. I also want to recognize that the Director of Fine and Applied Arts, Andy Sinclair, is here tonight. So I'm really grateful that he came out tonight. And thank you for everyone for the support of the arts here in Skokie and just for making this community so wonderful and vibrant to live in and to work in.
Would somebody from the Park District, from the Devonshire, like to tell a little bit? Robin?
thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the Arts Commission for bestowing this award upon us. I feel like, I mean, my name was brought up, but this is really it is a group award. It's a team award. And I really want to recognize all of my staff and the Park District officials that work with us to make the arts not just an extra thing for people to do. It is a vital part of everyone's lives, and we bring that to young people and to adults in a recreational way, in a way that they can play. They don't have to be professionals at it. They can just come and have fun, and as we say, make friends and learn a little bit while they're at it. So I do want to kind of point out some specific people, if you don't mind, while I'm here. I want to say thank you to some of our staff that have come out. We've got theater. James had to leave, but he represents the circus and dance division, and we have Evans, who is our technical theater director. Gail is one of our theater instructors, and one of the vital people, she and Michelle, again, a theater instructor and a preschool instructor. Two of the vital people that helped make the new theater curriculum for us in the last couple of years. We have our brand new preschool early childhood recreation supervisor, Chica. Thank you. And I can't go without the support of my bosses, Brianne and Michelle. Thank you so much. And we've got a wonderful board, too. Thanks to Sue and Mike. Thank you very much. And thanks to all of our families who put up with our extra hours, especially with theater and dance and all the arts. You know how that goes. So thank you to our families that have come and are always supporting us. And, just thanks to everybody. All right.
And thanks to all of you for everything you do. I would like to add a personal note about Michael Pauken. I've known Michael for the 20 years that he has served at the Performing Arts Center. And he came at a very difficult time for the Performing Arts Center. We knew that we needed to make a transition to professional management. From the outside, it looks like it's easy. It's a nice building. It's well decorated. Everybody sees it from the street, and you go inside, and there are all kinds of performances that are available to you. But putting all of that together, the long program every year, contending with the complaints, not that there are many, but the complaints of people who buy tickets and attend performances, and then, of course, the vendors always have their self-interest. Through his personality, Michael Pauken has set us on the map. It has the Performing Arts, North Shore Center for the Performing Arts has become a destination. And if you look at some of the spreadsheet statistics, you'll see that the audience is all throughout the metropolitan area. And a lot of that has got to do because of Michael Pauken's dedication. I'm fortunate, as are members of the board, to be able to attend performances at the North Shore Center. And rarely is there ever a time that I've attended over 20 years and Michael Pauken hasn't been there. I don't know if he slept overnight there or what, but he is always there. And he is one of the most accessible human beings you could ever want to meet. And he has a reservoir of patience that is not understandable by any human standard. Michael, we truly will miss you. You've given yeoman service to us. And I look forward to you returning for performances. And as I told Michael the other evening, I hope when he's in the neighborhood, he'll stop by the office so we can renew our friendship. So, Michael, the best of luck to you. We very much appreciate everything you've done for us over the years. Thank you. And I know everybody is eager for Nick's report on the tax levy. But why don't we just take a break so we can all thank our awardees. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Well, The meeting will resume its business. I would like to introduce the newest member of the Commission on Family Services, London Somerville. London, thank you. Appreciate your volunteerism, and we'll put you to work right away. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report of our village manager, assistant village manager, Nick Wyatt.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. Item A is in regards to the 2022 tax levy ordinance and tax levy abatement. The Village of Skokie's 2022 tax levy request is $15.4 million and represents the 32nd consecutive year that the Village Board has adopted a levy that is equal to the village's 1990 tax levy. The village's Finance Director, Julian Prendy, is at the podium and will make a presentation regarding this proposed levy.
Good evening. I will concede that the artistic awards are more exciting, and I'll do my best not to put the rest of you to sleep. But let's go through this as quickly as we can. Well, thanks for the opportunity to present the tax levy. This is a legal requirement that the village must complete every year. I will go through the various points of the presentation. Feel free to interrupt and ask questions throughout. A lot of this should be familiar to at least the board and hopefully some of the audience members. Just the brief highlights. The village's property tax levy in 1990 was $15.4 million. At that time, the village board adopted a 5-year property tax freeze, as it was determined that the village had other means to raise revenue and fund operations and capital. That freeze continued since 1991. And I'm pleased to report that we are continuing it again in fiscal 2023 and tax year 2022, which makes it the 32nd consecutive year. And again, that property tax levy, as in 1990, is $15,456,695. Just a brief note on how property taxes are determined. Taxing entities, meaning the village, the library, the park district, and so on, determine as they go through their budgets the amount of funding that they require for property taxes. They present that to their elected officials, our village board in our case, and elected officials determine whether that's appropriate and vote. And then the ordinances that are approved at the next meeting are communicated to the county. The county then, the county assessor, takes the amounts levied by each taxing agency and spreads that out throughout the properties in the community, basing it on the assessed valuation as equalized by the Illinois Department of Revenue to come up with this idea of equalized assessed valuation. Each property owner then pays a allocated share. Payments are made to the county. The county eventually remits to municipalities and park districts and libraries and so on. I will spend just a little bit of time talking about the equalized assessed valuation, that is essentially the value of all taxable property in the village. Last year, the total taxable property in the village was about $2.9 billion. This year, we have seen a decrease in our EAV to about $2.6 billion. It's really hard to determine why. We believe it's just the county's efforts to sort of help the property owners with the impacts of the pandemic. Unfortunately, as I will cover a little later on, it really does not translate to a property tax savings when property owners go to pay. It's just the way the formulas work. That, as a matter of fact, the 2021 taxes are going up as opposed to going down. But you can see the line here represents the village's EAV beginning in 1990 and all the way through tax year 2021. In that span of time, the village's EAV has successfully increased 148%. And that equates, you can't see it, but it's about 3.3% annual average. And as of the 2021 tax year, you can see that our breakdown of taxable property, it's about 49%, the majority residential, 41% commercial, 10% industrial, and then less than 1% in nonprofit and vacant land. And that breakdown sort of follows somewhat the number of properties. We have about 22,000 residential properties and only about 4,000 commercial and maybe 500 industrial. But as you can imagine, the value of each industrial or commercial is much higher than a residential property. So as I mentioned, while the EAV has decreased from tax year 2020 to 2021, and I've broken it down by categories up here in the top left, you'll see each category of taxable property and the green bars being the 2021 and the orange bars being the 2020. You can see that each category in 2021 has decreased from the prior year. The overall EAV decrease is about 7.3%. Unfortunately, when you look at the amount of tax that is being collected from the same properties, that amount has gone up by about 1.6%. So, in essence, the taxable property increase or decrease really does not impact the amount of property taxes that are collected by taxing bodies or paid by property owners. Those amounts, as I mentioned at the very beginning, are determined by the taxing agencies that submit these amounts to the county to collect. Just a brief note on inflation. Because we are operating in a frozen levy environment, essentially levying the same $15.4 million that we levied in 1990, it's important to note how that would have changed had we not done that. Had the village kept up with inflation, this 2022 tax year levy that is still 15.4 would actually be 28.5 million today. That's an additional 13 million of property taxes that we would have to collect, which would translate just for the residential properties to $293 on average per year. Incidentally, a residential property in the village pays about $367 to the village annually in property taxes. Over this 32-year period, we have been able to save about $213 million in property taxes from Skokie taxpayers. And this chart illustrates the same point as the prior chart, but just visually here you can see the green area is the frozen levy, and then the red area above it is what the levy would have looked combined had we kept up with inflation over the years. Thank you. Again, a comparison between 1990 and 2021, which is, and we are approving the 2020, we're presenting the 2022 tax levy today, but we only have data through 2021, so that's why you see 2021 in a lot of these charts. This is a comparison of what the village's property tax share was in 1990 and how does that compare with 2021. Again, because we have maintained that amount as fixed, as frozen, that share of the property tax bill has continually decreased to 6.14% in 2021. I try to make this note every year. The village is a municipal corporation with the ability to tax in various ways. The remaining agencies that you see here do not have that freedom. The park district, the school district, the library, except for the county, they can tax. But typically the library, park district, and schools only have the ability to levy property taxes, and then for the schools, some state funding. So this was intentional at the time when the village froze the property tax levy, as I understand it, to allow for our fellow local governments to be able to fund their operations through the property tax. The village then opted to fund our operations through other revenue sources. And we have successfully been able to coexist with those unit of governments and maintain our funding structure and integrity without touching the property tax. So again, 16% to 6.14% as of the 2021 year. Very quickly, the 15.4 million that the village collects every year. This year is the majority of it is used for debt. However, in the past, for many years in the past, only a small portion of our tax levy was used for repayment of debt. I'll touch a little bit on this in a later slide, but that is mostly due to the pension obligation bonds we funded last year. But you can see about $3 million goes to public services, and that is It's equally shared among police, fire, public works, administration. About 2.9, almost 3 million goes to fund pensions. That is the municipal employees pension, or IMRF, which is a relatively stable amount year over year. And the majority of it, 9.5 million, just about 9.5 million goes to pay debt. Speaking of debt, in total, the village anticipates to pay about 17.5 million in debt service this year. That is a combination of principal and interest just for this year. We have about 222.5 million of outstanding debt at May 1 of 2022, at the beginning of this fiscal year. That amount was much lower last year in February. For those of you that are not familiar, the village issued about 150 million in general obligation bonds, the majority of which was targeted at funding our public safety pensions. We went through a public hearing process, a long process with the village board to actually come to that conclusion. By doing that, we managed to save about 60 million or so in present value savings over the 20-year that we are going to repay these bonds. But all that said, that debt issue requires significant cash outlay year over year. In total, it's about 10 million or so that our debts, 10 million of that 17.5 million goes to repay the pension obligation bonds. And you can see by this table, 8.8 million of the property tax goes to cover that 10 million of the POB debt service every year. The other funding sources of our total debt service are TIF increment. Obviously, we have some debt issuances that have been used to improve our TIF areas. Utility taxes, again, that's the difference between the POB funding is made up of the general property taxes and then utility taxes. About $1 million or so in telecom taxes to repay the police station facility, and then about $1.2 million for the Skokie Public Library expansion that completed last year. And then $612,000 goes to pay other general obligation debt that the village had incurred prior to the pension obligation bonds. That covers the village's share of the tax levy. I'll spend just a little bit of time on the Skokie Public Library. Again, the library has a separate elected board, and they must determine their own levy amount. However, the village board must approve that and communicate it to the county in order for it to end up in the tax roll. So we go through this process every year. This year's the levy for operation for the library is about 12.3 million. In total, the library's levy is 13.5. This has not changed from the prior year, and the library is now in their 5th year of a frozen total levy. Of that 13.4, as I mentioned in the prior slide, 1.2 goes to repay their portion of the debt. There are 2 ordinances up for review tonight. One of them is the tax levy, and we're through that part. And then the second is the tax abatement ordinance. Because we operate in a frozen levy environment, there's action required by the village board to abate amounts above and beyond that frozen tax levy. We have filed with Cook County these ordinances that you see here on the screen. For each debt issuance, a bond ordinance is filed with Cook County. That bond ordinance calls for a specific amount of property tax levy to be collected every year with or without village action. Because the village has chosen to froze that tax levy to 15.4, we now must abate the amount that is listed in those ordinance year over year. This table summarizes the amount of property taxes that is required by those ordinances, and you can see that in the first column with numbers, amount levied at 17.5 million. We are choosing to abate 6.9 million of that, which we will fund through other sources, and we are levying for bonds for the repayment of principal and interest, 10.6 million, as I mentioned in the prior slide. That 10.6 million includes the village and the public library. So this ordinance again requires consideration by the village board for first reading tonight, along with the tax levy. Both of these ordinances will come back before the board for final reading and approval at the December 19th meeting. And that's all I had. I'll open to questions. Anybody
Any
has-
comments or questions? Trustee Robinson.
Thanks for this thorough presentation. Any surprises in your assessment and evaluation of this recommendation came up for you at all?
Not at this point, no. Again, this action here is a formality. The property tax decisions and funding discussion typically happens at budget time, and what you see here was already discussed and determined at our April budget hearings discussions. I will say, I am a little surprised to see that our EAV went down as much as it did. Irrelevant for the village, although it is an indicator of the overall community's economic health. I don't think it's different than any other town. I think even the city of Chicago are seeing EAV reductions. And hopefully as we move out from the pandemic, we will start seeing that move back up. But we're getting very close to hitting that pre-recession number. We were at just about $3 billion prior to the 2007, 2008 recession. We're getting very close to that number up until this year now, where we took a dip. So that's it. I hope that answers your question, Tracy.
Okay, and this will be back for final passage at the next village board meeting, December 19th. Great. Thanks, Julian.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is report of our corporation council this evening. Barbara Mangler.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Item A on the Corporation Council's agenda has previously been adopted with the consent agenda, and that concludes my agenda tonight.
Thank you. Next item is new business, a discussion of boards and commissions. Trustee Johnson.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So I had, I'm hoping this conversation tonight can be kind of a start of an ongoing conversation. I had requested back in October that the village board review and consider revising our appointment process for village commissioners. I think we all acknowledge that our system of boards and commissions is an incredibly important, incredibly integral aspect of our village government. But overall, I think there are some aspects of our system that I think are underperforming. And so I sent a memo to the board last week outlining some of my concerns with the current process and offering some recommendations for improvement. I think there are kind of a multitude of really small ways that we can improve this process, and also some big ways, potentially. In the memo I sent the board, I recommended that we consider bringing back something similar to what used to be called the CIC, the Citizens Involvement Committee, which was a group tasked with supporting the appointment process for commissioners. But regardless of any specific action, the aim of this discussion for me is to help make this appointment process, more inclusive and more transparent and equitable and nonpartisan. So the current process, according to Village Code, our mayor is responsible for nominating all village commissioners, which is, it's a lot. It's over 250 seats across all, I think, 18 boards and commissions. And our task as trustees is to simply advise and consent to the nominations. It's not always a particularly transparent or inclusive process. And something I've noticed, it's also not always a uniform process. Not all applicants are always handled kind of equally. I've spoken with kind of dozens of residents about their experiences going through this process, some that joined commissions and some that didn't. And I've heard kind of very widely different experiences. Many residents have told me that their process was exactly what you would expect. They applied to join a commission, they heard back from the mayor's office, they interviewed with the mayor, and were either accepted or denied or sometimes recommended for a different commission. On the other hand, I've had residents tell me sometimes that they applied to join a commission and simply never heard back. Or on the flip side, someone told me just yesterday that they applied to join a commission and just got a letter in the mail saying, you're appointed. Nothing else required. Something I've brought up in the past is also, I've had numerous residents tell me that they were interviewed and selected not by our mayor, but by our village attorney, our corporation counsel, even though there's really nothing in our village code to suggest that our village legal department has a part in this appointment process. So in the memo I sent everyone last week, I mentioned a few kind of specific concerns that I think we should address beyond just the fact that I think we can have a more standard uniform process. For example, it's not always required that a candidate even submit an application before being nominated and appointed to a village commission. And there's also no requirement that vacancies be filled within a specific time frame. And there's also no requirement that vacancies even be publicized to really attract more applicants. At any given time, since I've been a trustee, at any given time, there's usually around 20 to 30 vacancies across the system, some that may have not been filled in a few years. In addition, I've kind of gotten the sense that our attendance requirement for commissioners is sometimes not uniformly enforced. And there's also no real requirement that equity really be factored in to the process to really ensure that the composition of our boards and commissions really mirror the community as a whole. Something I've mentioned in the past is, I think one of the clearest problems for me is in our commission leadership positions. Currently, when you look at all of our commission chairs and vice chairs, almost 3 times as many are men as are women. I'm really open to really all kinds of suggestions from this board about ways we can improve this process, and I really have no doubt that I'm sure other trustees have some great ideas. And so I'd love for this to be something that we work on in the coming year as a board. The one big picture recommendation that I made in the memo that I wrote was that I asked the board to consider bringing back something similar to what used to be called the CIC, the Citizens Involvement Committee. I'm not actually, Mayor, you might know, I'm not actually sure when we kind of discontinued this body or for what reason. But it was a group designed to support our entire system of boards and commissions. And I think making our appointment process more intentionally inclusive, including more people with more direction, I think would help alleviate some of these small concerns that I've mentioned tonight. So I've probably already spoken too much. I'm going to pass this back to the board and ask the trustees not only for feedback on some of my concerns and recommendations, but also to ask whether other members of the board have other concerns or recommendations, and if there is interest from the board on how best to proceed with some potential revisions in kind of the year to come. So I'll pass this back to anybody.
Trustee Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm big into history and kind of understanding the past. And I know you've been governing the board for many years. The CIC commission or committee that Trustee Johnson's talking about, just curious to know what that is, what that was, and if you could just talk historically about the process that you've had throughout the years.
Yeah, the CIC was created, I don't know exactly when, under Mayor Al Smith. And over the years, it actually became, at least as I understand it, from my predecessor, Mayor Garrell, an impediment to people joining commissions because it became terribly bureaucratic, and there was quite a bit of internal heated discussion over who deserves to be on what commission. When I became mayor, contrary to what Trustee Johnson said, I tried my best to uniform the commission process. I do my level best to not only receive the applications, I try to promote people to join boards and commissions. What I think we need to bear in mind is that every organization today that relies on volunteerism is struggling. PTA, amateur athletics, you look at philanthropies, they're all looking and searching to get volunteers to help out. We're no different. Part of it is we were hit by COVID. And during COVID, at the very beginning, the boards and commissions were put on hiatus. None of us were looking to increase, we were looking to preserve the boards and commissions. And then we went to Zoom, which met with moderate success, I would say. During those 2 years, though, we lost some commissioners. some through the natural process, moving, retiring, etc. Some, I think, was Zoom fatigue. But we are very close to where we were. We always have had trouble getting volunteers to join boards and commissions. Because if you join a board and commission, you do it because you're dedicated. You want to give back to the community. And they do meet on a regular basis. At least once a month, I review all of the applications that I get. And then we arrange, and I try as best I can to interview all of the applicants during the succeeding month. And then I present those to the village board. Very rarely is anybody not accommodated, or at least I make a good faith effort. The application is one page. The information is basically what you would get on a standard resume. We ask, please list the 3 commissions you're interested in from the most to the least. When we had the CIC, at least the experience of my predecessor was that it became so bureaucratic that people walked away and didn't join a commission because they said it was becoming political in nature, not political partisanship, but political in who knows who and all of this, that, and the other. I can say I've never asked anybody on the application or during an interview what their political process is, what their politics, their philosophy. What I've always asked is, why would you like to be in this commission? And if the commission is at capacity, would you be interested in another commission, perhaps? There have been a few occasions where people have said, no, this is the only commission I want to be on. So in a case like that, you simply say, thank you very much. I will keep you in mind when a vacancy occurs on that commission. But on the subject of equity, it's a matter of who has served on a commission. I usually ask the chairman of the commission for a recommendation. Almost all of the commissions, there are a couple that do not have vice chairs yet, but they will. We're getting to it. And I do my best, but in this community, equity is it's difficult to quantify equity. Is it gender equity? Or with 100 different groups represented from all over this planet, is it more race, ethnicity? You try to achieve that balance, and I think we've been moderately successful. It's something you're always trying to juggle, but let me just conclude with this. The village code represents what the Illinois Municipal Code directs us to do. There is a clause in the Illinois Municipal Code. It's called the Separation of Powers Code. You may be acquainted with it. This is the formula that we have used philosophically across American government. The president nominates, the U.S. Senate confirms. Same thing with the Illinois state government, Cook County, etc. And the Illinois Municipal Code simply says the mayor shall nominate. And it very specifically says that the village council has, I'm not sure if I'm quoting perfectly verbatim, but says to essence, it has a purely legislative function, which is code for advice and consent. I'm always open for suggestions from members of the village board, but one of the reasons I created the trustee liaison was to try and help bridge that gap. And when co-chairs or chairs need to be filled, I'm open to suggestion, not just from the members of the village board in general, but from the liaisons. You're the ones who know the boards and commissions that you work on. And I always try to consult as much as I can. It's part of my job. It's not the entirety of the job. So, Trustee Kuhn.
So we actually had this discussion recently with Human Relations Commission as well. The challenge with even achieving quorum for our commission meetings, the lack of participation from commissioners or consistency, and it's usually the same people who are consistently not available. One of the things that we discuss, and it's going to make its way up to you as well, with the chair, is that before making any recommendations, we also want to understand why the lack of engagement for those who are even appointed currently. Is it an issue of accessibility? Is it timing? Would it be more available to them if they had a hybrid option to participate in the meetings, for instance? So I think before we get to a point of making recommendations for change, I'd like to understand and assess why even our current, the lack of participation from our current commissioners as well. And so I'd be interested in just having some sort of survey or feedback, interviewing current commissioners and understanding what might be some potential impediments for their lack of participation, because I think that might provide us insight as well in terms of the lack of overall engagement in wanting to apply for and join a commission as well.
Yeah, every month or so, I go over the reports that I get from the trustee liaisons, and if somebody's attendance has been lacking, I always send them a letter. I point that out, and I ask them if there's a reason why they haven't been attending, and if there is, please let me know, or do you not want to be on the commission any longer? And if we don't receive a reply, and I would say 2/3 of the time we get a reply, but if we don't, we usually make an effort to get in touch with them, and then I take action. I remove them from the commission. It's been a problem that goes back. I first joined the village board quite a long time ago, 1984. And I remember chairs asking the very same question. I can close my eyes and I can point out where the questions were coming from. You're dealing with volunteers, and anybody who's dealt over a period of time with a cadre of volunteers knows people's lives change. their schedules change, their work schedules, they might get a promotion. So it's hard to tell. I would be more than happy to make a survey. Yeah, that is not a problem at all. I will be glad to get to work on that if you think that would help. Trustee Sucker.
I had the same question. Can you hear me okay? No, okay. I had the same question about possibly like thinking about the hybrid opportunity for the people on the commissions, but I also realize like when I'm out in public, like at a block party or at our firehouse dinners that we have, I'm always asking people if they're interested. I would like to see some kind of commission open house of some sort where people could come and learn about what the commissions do, sign their names on a form, say that they're interested, explain why they're interested, get some excitement around it, and the details we can work out. But I would like people to know about the boards and about the commissions, and what they do, and how they can get involved, and maybe have a pool of names available for when this kind of thing happens, so that we're not so delayed with vacancies, if that would be something the board would consider.
Trustee Robinson.
Yeah, I love that idea, Edie. And in my head, I'm also thinking of, this is a community operation, if you will, where you're building community and meeting neighbors, having not only just the open house, but also once the commissioners have been set, to really have like an open discussion, maybe an annual meeting of all the commissioners together to set vision and mission and equity, what have you, just so that we can all build together and have that work on that momentum.
Yes. Before the pandemic, every year we did that. We had a large, it was at one of the hotels, and it was basically, it was a reception format, and every commissioner plus a significant other was invited to attend. And it was always one of the most well-attended functions in the village. And I think the reason it was so well-attended was the camaraderie. Commissioners not only would conceivably meet once a month, but here they would socialize with each other, maybe have a drink, have dinner together. We usually tried to have a speaker, and the idea was that the trustees, the clerk and I would circulate and talk to all of the commissions. And there was an esprit de corps that was established. And then we had COVID. And in fact, my assistant and I were talking today about conceivably setting a date for the spring to see if we could renew it. And then I heard, I think it was the Illinois State Director of Health saying, avoid large meetings because there's this resurgence. And I look around, and it seems that at any one time, 25% of the village staff is out. The flu, COVID. But I agree wholeheartedly, and I would love to be able to renew that annual meeting. And I mean, Trustee Sucker brings up what I think is a great idea. Again, it was pre-pandemic. Every 2 years, we had a series of events in the year. 1 year, I think Ann Tennis is not here, but Ann had helped organize in-home coffees all throughout the village. I think we had 50 of them. And each trustee was given their block. And then we had a department head go to everyone, and it was all in the neighborhoods. And then a couple of years later, we had large dinners at each of the 3 fire stations. I think those were the most popular things. Everybody likes the fire engine, and so and the fire department loved it, and the trustees served dinner. But at that, once we had a captured audience, we would try to pitch residents and joining a board and commission. And what I was told at one point, when I got in touch with somebody who I frankly was surprised that their attendance was down, and I had called them and said, "What, problem, health problem in the family or what?" And he said to me, "I didn't realize how much work it was going to be. And I've got children, and I've got work, etc. And I'm sorry. I don't think I can do it." So, and it is a commitment. I mean, we're asking people to not just give up one night each month, but to devote time to organize programs. And like I think Trustee Kuhn has not just this meeting this week, I think you have another one. Is it Thursday night? You all know what I'm talking about. So I think anything we can do to encourage applicants, I'm all in favor of it. And I welcome the discussion, and I'll look into everything that you've suggested. Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Pierce-Slovic.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
So I just wanted to reiterate what my colleagues have said, and I do believe that it's quite important if we can go on Zoom for some of these commissions, because I do believe that many people who are part of the commission are not attending because they're a little bit concerned about being in spaces. The other thing is I'd like to reiterate that in the process of what is done, that there are applications to be on a commission. It's not just that the mayor is appointing the commission, people to the commission, and I do believe that in our newsletters, etc., I believe that we do suggest all the time to village residents that they should apply for commissions. I think Ann's very good about suggesting it, that it's an open process. And I just think that, as you suggested, that we just need more people to volunteer to do that, which I understand is very difficult in this time because we're all spread so thin. But I don't believe that there isn't a process to what's being done. I don't believe that you wake up one morning, Mayor, and just say, "I just met X, I'm going to throw them on a commission," that it is done with respect, with applications, and with you, of course, or someone else vetting the person and interviewing them to make sure it's the right commission for them to be appointed to.
Thank you. To be continued, yes.
Well, I just also wanted to concur with Trustee Secker. I love the idea of like a commission open house. I think there's a lot of things we can do to promote it. Something I try to do anytime I meet commissioners who I haven't met before, I don't always tell them why, but I try to ask, just about how they got involved, how they heard about their commission, what their process was like. And almost always, probably 90% of the time, it's always word of mouth. It's always, I knew someone who was on a commission, or I knew a trustee, and so something, I think reaching the people beyond the kind of word of mouth and finding creative ways to do that, I think could be super helpful.
And John and I have had a couple different discussions about trying to figure out how we can do the hybrid, because we will need to devote significant staff time to making those arrangements. And I think John, and I don't want to put this on John, because it's I'm the final authority in this particular matter. But John was very concerned about getting the commissions back and active in September. And he was concerned about staff time. But I think the point is well taken, and we should take a very serious new look at the hybrid model. I think it's worth taking a second look at it, particularly with this, at least with this resurgence. Got that, Nick?
I got it right now.
Next item on the agenda is report of our Plan Commission. Chairman Paul Luke. With Johanna Nyman. Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I have two cases tonight. The first case is case 2022-31P, chapter amendment. At the September 15th meeting of the Plan Commission, we reviewed a request by the village manager for a zoning chapter amendment to add medium-density residential adjacent to single-family residential zoning in a park-like or campus-like setting for a purpose statement of the OR Office Research District to allow residential, townhouse, and residential 3 or more unit multiple family uses in the OR district north of Old Orchard Road, allow limited service restaurant with drive-through and general commercial uses in the OR district, reduce side and rear yard setbacks, and related corrections within the overall village code. The Plan Commission supported allowing a mix of residential unit types and limited retail uses north of Old Orchard Road that would be compatible with the existing office development and the residential properties to the north. The location of townhouses with a limited height of 40 feet, which is 3 stories, would create a good buffer between the single-family homes and more intense residential and office buildings. Taller residential buildings, as the currently allowed office buildings, would be required to have a setback of not less than 150 feet from residential use property. Limited commercial uses in the area fronting Old Orchard Road would also be desirable to provide service needs of businesses and residents in the area. The optimum development has been compatible with adjacent uses allowed in the OR district, as all developments have been constructed under the site plan approval and have adhered to the district principle of creating a planned park-like setting. The Commission also supported allowing CX core mixed-use district uses in the OR district. These are primarily commercial, retail, service, and food uses. The only uses not allowed in the CX district, but recommended as a restricted use in the OR district, are townhouses and limited service restaurants with drive-through facilities. There was much discussion by the commissioners regarding the addition of limited service restaurant and the drive-through component. Some commissioners questioned the compatibility of a fast food restaurant with a drive-through located in a park-like setting. Some restaurants are considered acceptable while others were not. Staff cautioned that once a site plan is approved, any limited service restaurant can come in, provided that a parking and stacking analysis is conducted and approved by the Plan Commission. Those was properly advertised, but no one was in the audience to speak on this matter. The Plan Commission recommended by a vote of 4 ayes, 2 nays, and 3 members absent that Chapter 118 zoning of the Skokie Village Code be amended and presented to as in the staff report.
A motion would be in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Robinson. Are there any comments or questions on the zoning chapter amendment. Trustee Sutker.
I just want to, maybe my questions for Johanna. I just want to understand that it's a change in the text amendment and it would allow, a drive-through. And I guess my concern is, would that mean that in the future, somebody could try to put a drive-through in OR just automatically?
It would be, yes.
Is there, I guess my question's around, like, is there a way to, for the future, make a drive-through in OR a special use?
Well, it would be a special use, yes. It would be restricted.
I guess I want to make sure I understand that.
Want to clarify that?
I guess the question is, restricted and special use are considered different things. So a
Yeah.
special use would have to go to the plan commission for each special use versus a restricted. There appears to be in the zoning code in this proposal some restrictions on how this is an allowed use. Other places it's a special use, but this would be a restricted use. And effectively, because the way it's written, it is a permitted use. I know that sounds incredibly confusing, but there are restrictions based on that it's a limited service with a drive-through carry-out option. So special use and permitted use are much cleaner, in my professional opinion. Some of this work had started before I arrived, so and that was, as Chairman Luke alluded to, some of the concern that was voiced at the Plan Commission, that there was less control from the village over what limited service drive-through establishment might come through here.
I know there was a concern about which one, but my concern is if we change this zoning amendment for this project, that in the OR district, somebody else could try to put a drive-through, and I would like that to be at least a special use.
Well, it'll still have to come before the plan commission.
For potential site plan approval, but not necessarily for the drive-through piece. Because the drive-through is site plan approval, if it meets its parking requirements, then it moves forward for the plan commission and this body would review it. But if somebody, my understanding is, if somebody just wanted to put a drive-through and it met code requirements, there may be an instance where it would not go through the plan commission.
So that's my concern.
So, Johanna, your understanding is then that a permitted use and a restricted use are synonymous?
The way the Village of Skokie code, and I'm still in my nascent journey of understanding it,
Right.
these restricted uses, you might, for example, and there's also a mention of car and auto and boat sales in the district, and there's some restrictions on those uses. So, but in making it effectively a permitted use, that line before in the ordinance, let's see. Uses listed as restricted uses in the district shall be permitted uses and be located within buildings containing other unrestricted uses or residences. So that's effectively making something that's a special use in many other districts a permitted use in this district.
In this district?
Right, in the OR district. So I don't have a crystal ball under what contemplated future developments, but whenever you make a text amendment to any part of the zoning district, you're making it for all future uses too.
Could it be written so that in the future, if something came before, if a drive-through came through, it would have to go through the special use process?
No.
No.
It's listed under restricted use.
Okay.
You're the village board. That is a decision for and I'll yield to the corporation council in guidance of what to do here.
Well, the recommendations you could send it back to the Plan Commission for additional recommendations. You could deny it or you can approve it. With regard to making what is now a permitted use into a special use, I would assume the Plan Commission would want to review that as well as the Community Development Director and see what triple down effect that would have.
This is a text amendment.
Yes.
Can the village board amend the recommendation of the text amendment to provide that future proposed drive-throughs be subject to Plan Commission review?
That would be the discretion of the board.
I would, you're making this a more, you would, by making this a special, effectively what you'd be amending it to make it a special use.
Right.
I think making it more restrictive is probably not, if you're making it less restrictive, I would recommend going back to the Plan Commission, but if there's precedent for amending it on the floor, then I think that's okay as making it a more restrictive amendment.
I don't recall we've ever done that.
I don't believe that we have,
No.
not since I've been here. So if you want to send it back to the Plan Commission.
Well, there is always a first time. Trustee Johnson,
Actually, I'll let Keith go first.
Yeah, I was gonna put a motion on the floor to kick it back to the Plan Commission for further review and recommendation.
Okay. We have a recommendation, a motion to,
I believe we have, maybe
just one second, let me get a second to the motion before. We have a second from Trustee Kuhn.
yes, Mr. Tucker here. Oh, I'm sorry,
Mr. Gershon. Hi,
Yes, hi,
welcome.
Mr.
It's
Gershon.
good to see all of you again. I just wanted to clarify for the record, under the Illinois Municipal Code, you do have the power to amend a recommendation from the Plan Commission on a text amendment. It's a legislative action, Plan Commission only recommends to you. And it's a critical, the reason I stood up so quickly is, without this text amendment, if this all goes back, then our current project can't be approved. And you certainly have multiple abilities here. First, when this came up in the Plan Commission, the discussion was had that the Plan Commission remains with its text amendment powers, and given the, site plan approval powers, someone could not just come in and put this use here without getting a site plan approved for it. So you already have that modification as part of that approval. But more importantly, if you want to require that restaurants to have a drive-through in that district must also comply with the requirements for a special use, you do have the ability under the Illinois Municipal Code to require that as part of this approval. And we would sincerely ask that you not just send this back because, as some of you know, this project has been out there for quite a long time. This could very well put the entire project at risk because of the fact that we would no longer have the ability to move forward with the project. You can't approve item 2 on your agenda without
Right.
allowing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So can I say you can, Mr. Gershon is right, you can absolutely make this from a permitted use or a restrictive use to a special use. The question raised before was, had we ever done that? Has this body ever done that? To my knowledge,
No.
you have not. So, for sure, Mr. Gershon is correct. You are the ultimate power, so.
What, well, would you be willing to withdraw the motion? And then we would have another motion, Trustee Sutker, which would be, tell me if I'm getting this correct now. Getting a bunch of lawyers and planners together. That future drive-through developments would require a special use in the OR district.
So again, so if you make the change to a special use, you can't have a permitted use for just this development and then a special use permit for future developments. If you make the change, it has to go forward for everybody, starting with this.
Or after this?
So staff's recommendation on the fly would be to change it from a restricted use to a special use, and then when we update the ordinance for second reading, we can reflect that, a special
Absolutely.
use, and take it out of restricted use to not confuse the matter.
Absolutely.
Trustee Sucker?
And so that would stay in place for this.
Correct, and Mr. Gershon, I don't know if you have any objection to that, but
None whatsoever. My
Yeah.
client has no objection to having to come through and do this as a special use.
Sure.
We're happy to go through that process. We're just far more concerned about not moving forward.
Right.
Thank you.
So I make that motion.
I withdraw
Oh, okay.
my motion.
Okay. Who seconded the motion? Trustee Johnson? Oh, trustee Kuhn, excuse me. Would you be willing to withdraw your second? Okay. And trustee Sucker?
I make the motion as you stated it. And, make, in the ordinance, making it a special use versus the.
Like the drive-through.
For the drive-through
In the OR.
in the OR.
Okay. Call the roll.
Do we have a second for that one?
I thought-
Mayor, could she repeat that? It was hard to hear. I'm sorry.
The motion is for making it, special use for this project in
For
the.
drive-throughs.
For drive-throughs.
Not just for the-
Drive-throughs.
For drive-throughs in the OR district,
A special use.
special use permit.
Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein, Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye. Okay, so the amendment is passed.
Okay,
Took us a while to get there, but
Since
we're
the
eventually-
board has passed that, I can move on with my second case.
Well, we do need to pass the zoning chapter amendment. That was just the amendment to the
Oh,
amendment.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Actually, can I ask a question?
We now have to take up
See, this
the,
is a first time for all of us.
it is.
Can I ask a question?
It's a little, certainly.
This is actually for Chairman Luke. I know you're here speaking on behalf of the entire commission, but I kind of wanted to ask, you as an individual commissioner voted against this zoning chapter amendment when it
I
came,
did.
along with Commissioner Berman.
Yes.
Could you explain to us kind of your rationale for kind of
I
what?
just felt that the restaurant, a drive-through fast food restaurant was inappropriate for the area.
Did you or Commissioner Berman have any concerns about any of the other uses at the site, or was
I-
it just the drive-through?
I don't recall Mr. Berman, Commissioner Berman telling me what his reasons were.
I have it on point B and not on point A. I don't know if that's what we have moved on to.
No, not yet. We're on our way. Okay. Call the roll on the zoning chapter amendment as amended.
Okay. Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
I'm going to abstain just because I have some mixed feelings about this.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein, Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. Next item is the site plan approval.
Which is case 2022-32P, site plan approval for 5400, 5420 Old Orchard Road. During the meeting of the Plan Commission on September 15th, the Commission reviewed requests for site plan approval for a mixed-use development at 5400 through 5420 Old Orchard Road. The proposed development will be located on a 11.16 acre site currently developed as an office and research building. The site is zoned OR Office Research, and the zoning would remain the same, with the understanding that a text amendment is making the proposed development permissible. The site is currently developed with office and research buildings that are still occupied. Village staff has reviewed several potential development plans for the subject site. However, none went to through the full public hearing process. The Pace 208 bus route operates along Goff Road, and the CTA 54A bus route operates along Old Orchard Road. Each has a stop at Woods Drive. The Skokie Valley Trail runs along the east side of the Lifetime Fitness property and south of Old Orchard Road to the east side of the OR district. The subject site is part of a two-lot development, including a health and fitness center, a research and testing laboratory with business offices, which was approved by a site plan approval ordinance 009 Zebra 2930. The current site plan approval ordinance should be amended to remove the subject site and a new site plan approval ordinance created. The proposed use is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. However, staff is open to considering residential and limited commercial use at this location. Despite the inconsistency, the property is adjacent to an existing OR zoning district on the south end of Old Orchard Road, where residential buildings are allowed and have been compatible with office and institutional uses. The proposed development will be an allowable use in the OR district based on the approval of the zoning ordinance amendment case 2022-31P. The purpose of the OR district is to allow the development of business and professional buildings, use with higher density residential developments with a mix of residential types and other compatible uses in a planned park setting. The proposed development meets these requirements by providing townhomes, residents along the north property line on the site, higher density multifamily residential buildings in the center of the site, and a mix of commercial and residential uses fronting Old Orchard Road to the south. Barco Land Development LLC, on behalf of TD 5400 Old Orchard LLC, intends to facilitate the development of a mixed-use development at the northwest corner of Old Orchard Road and Woods Drive. The subject site is currently occupied by the Portland Cement Association on an 11.16 acre site. The development is part of a planned development that includes Lifetime Fitness, which is located on a parcel subdivided from Portland Cement. The proposed plan overview. The building square footage would be about, the commercial side would be 13,000 square feet, 8,000 square feet containing on the south main residential building along Old Orchard Road, 5,000 square feet in a freestanding building with a drive-through facility. Residential, we would have 294 residential units at 26.3 units per acre and 49 townhomes that are 3 stories in height. Okay. Since the Plan Commission meeting, the petitioner is currently investigating and working on developing bird-friendly building design guidelines. Also, the applicant has indicated they are employing sustainability measures in this project. They also added that they are proposing that 13 units within the apartment complex at the project be designated for rent that are classified as rent affordable housing, which is at 100% of area median income. The composition of the units would reflect the unit mix of the apartment complex: 4 studios, 4 one-bedroom apartments, 3 two-bedroom apartments, and 2 three-bedroom apartments. At the August 10th meeting of the Appearance Commission, they approved the elevations and site plans. And before we get to the vote, Mr. Turner here wishes to present a presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for entertaining a brief presentation. My name is Richard Tucker. I'm the founder and CEO of Tucker Development. My son Aaron, our president, will actually speak to a few items, but just going to start a brief presentation here, and we can get on our way. And then where do click to go forward? Perfect. So it's kind of coming home for me. I was listening earlier, and it was nice to hear that, considering I grew up in Devonshire, went to Old Orchard, and graduated from Niles North, it was wonderful to hear all the accolades for the various departments that have been around, and all the time I spent in Devonshire Park and Lawler Park made me smile as I'm sitting here. So a pleasure to be back, and we think really contributing something special to Skokie. As a company, formed, hate to say, been around 40 years, been involved with over $1 billion worth of real estate, over 10 million square feet, and a fair amount of various types, from commercial real estate, of shopping centers, mixed use, apartments, and Aaron will speak to briefly, we're working up the street in Lincolnwood on a project at the old Purple Hotel, which we call District 1860. Just to point to a few, not far away on Toohey Avenue, we developed a number of years ago Point Plaza Shopping Center. Also not far away in Des Plaines, developed Metropolitan Square, which includes a number of retail outlets as well as 142 residential units. And then other developments of ours, both here and in New Jersey, have had both apartments, commercial. So all of what we do is very similar to what we are proposing here, a combination of residential activities as well as a little bit of commercial. Aaron and I like putting the Niles North logo on here, but it's just a brief. We have, Aaron's been with the company now for approximately 9 years, practiced law, Kirkland Ellis prior to that. So I'm proud to have him as our president, and he will speak to a few more items with regards to our presentation here. So thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Dad. Hello, everyone. My name is Aaron Tucker. As my dad said, President and Chief Investment Officer of Tucker Development Corporation. This is just a brief shot from a drone of our project about 5 miles south of the subject site on Toohey Avenue and Lincoln Avenue in Lincolnwood. And you can see that is the third phase of wood that's going up in our building, District 1860 district, because we're providing a new district, a new area, a new neighborhood, and 1860 to honor President Lincoln in the year that he was elected president. This is a shot of the finished product. Now we'll arrive here to 5400 Old Orchard. So just a brief overview of our project team. You've met my dad and myself. Here with us is our counsel, Land Use Counsel, Mark Gershon from Polsinelli. Also here with us, wave, Mark Karinsky and Mark Hopkins from HKM. Not here with us tonight, but very much a part of the team, Bob Gudmundsson from RWG Engineering, our civil engineer, and Louie Abuna from KLLA, who I'm sure you've all seen before at various meetings. Just a quick procedural history. We've kind of covered this already, but worked with staff over a long period of time on this project, which received their recommendation of approval to the Plan Commission. Appearance review received a unanimous recommendation of approval, as well as Plan Commission for our project received a unanimous recommendation of approval. Just a quick overview of the immediate area around the site with the site plan superimposed on this aerial. Just wanted to share a couple thoughts of ours on the site, highlight some of the design features and what attracted us to this incredible site. As my dad shared, he's from Skokie, so we're no stranger to the amazing place that it is. Specific to this site, we really love the proximity to the Harms Flatwoods and Harms Woods and the hundreds of acres of open space that the residents of this project would be able to have direct walking and biking adjacency to. Obviously love the interconnectivity to the regional network of our highways, but while being able to live in a very residential setting, as well as, of course, the proximity to Westfield, Old Orchard Mall, and other nearby opportunities. So we zoom in closer here, you'll see that the connectivity between Lifetime Fitness and the project is very attractive to residents that would be located here, living here in this community. So that was also something that we were excited about. And again, you can see even closer the direct access across Old Orchard Road to both bike paved paths and then, of course, the walking and dirt trails for bike riding. It's a closer view of our site plan. Very excited about creating the campus park-like feel that we've talked about. This aerial can show, what we were very excited about is that from the street level, you'll never see this garage. Obviously, you can see it from this aerial here, but we are excited to be able to wrap the garage completely with residential product. Unlike certain wrap projects elsewhere, one of the things we're very excited about is to be creating this articulation away from that garage so you don't perceive it as much of a block as you do some geometry that disappears into this sort of series of arms and legs that comes off of it. That also creates a series of courtyards that we're very excited about, to have a ton of green space, some that are activated and full of amenities and opportunity for activity, and some that are more quiet and more of a peaceful and sort of book reading space. This is a shot of those various courtyards and the various programming there. And then this is a shot looking northeast from Old Orchard Road. We worked with staff very closely on incorporating commercial space into the front of this building. As my dad shared, we're take our expertise as mixed-use developers very seriously, and making sure that we program space into the mixed-use buildings that work with the types of businesses that would one day occupy them. This is the front door of the residential lobby and how it would be perceived pulling in off of Old Orchard Road. Again, great care was taken with the presence of the building relative to the road and how the residents would interact once in the community. Here's a picture sort of in the townhouse neighborhood towards the north of the site, and you can see these townhouses feature garages, two-car garages, their own street network, guest parking, and ample landscaping. Another shot within that townhouse community, and again, an environment that we're very excited about. So we submitted about a multi-page report on all of the green and sustainable features that we're excited about this project, but I wanted to just tease out a few to highlight here in the various categories of the village's sustainable plan. From a location and transportation perspective, we're going to be very excited about our proximity to the woods, and we'll be providing a large number of bicycle storage opportunities, as well as EV stations in the parking garage. From a sustainable sites perspective, we will not be using any invasive plants. All of our roofs will have high white index to reduce any heat islands that can form with darker, less white roofs. And we will be pursuing rainwater management through sort of water efficient landscaping. Mark is a landscape architect by background, Mark Korinsky, not Mark Hopkins. So we feel very excited about the design efforts that have gone into this thus far. From a water efficiency standpoint, we'll be using water efficient fixtures throughout the building. Again, efficient landscaping, so the very limited need for irrigation to reduce our need to use fresh water towards the irrigation. Sorry, water, not just fresh water. And then one thing we've been programming in especially in the gyms, but throughout the building, would be just these, not just the water fountains, but the water bottle fillers that encourage reusable containers. From an energy and atmosphere perspective, we'll be using LED light fixtures, and our HVAC systems will be designed for high efficiency through-wall design. From a materials and resources standpoint, we will be having an opportunity through the demolition of the Portland cement facility to sort of crush and reuse as much of that as possible. So a very green practice without trucking stuff off-site and bringing stuff back on-site. And then as far as the finished product, adding not just trash chutes, but recycling chutes as separate and dedicated, and durable materials, of course. And then from an indoor environmental quality, automatic lighting system sensors and settings, a minimum of MERV 8 filters on our HVAC systems, and the sealing of shared surfaces and weather stripping to minimize heat loss and air conditioning loss. This slide identifies a number of other additional benefits that we see of the project providing. I just wanted to repeat some of the facts with respect to affordable housing that we're able to offer. We're excited to be able to offer 13 units of affordable housing at 100% of AMI. That will take the shape of 4 studios, 4 one-bedrooms, 3 two-bedrooms, and 2 three-bedrooms. When we purchased the land, we did not contemplate including affordable housing in the development program. Tucker has not built a project in the past with affordable housing, but after discussing this issue with staff and listening and learning from staff and more about the issue, we are very excited that we're able to offer these 13 units as part of the development program. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, in conclusion of my report. Oh, I'm sorry.
So sorry.
The Plan Commission, on a vote of, let's see, 6 ayes and 3 members absent, voted aye to approve the petition.
A motion to accept the Plan Commission's recommendation on site plan approval. Plan Commission Case 2022-32P, 5400 to 5420 Old Orchard Road would be in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Are there any comments or questions? Trustee Sucker.
I have a question for the Tucker,
Mr. Tucker or Richard Tucker? Sure.
or
Yes, I'm sorry?
how did you decide to use 100% of the AMI?
So it's a price point for those units that would meet the criteria to allow housing to benefit a price that would actually be lower than would be market rent for those same units. So it's providing a lower price point than would be the market rent for the balance of the property.
And is it possible to go lower than the 100%?
Unfortunately, it is not. I think as Aaron mentioned, when we first contracted to buy the property, we hadn't contemplated any affordable housing. So as it is, these 13 units significantly reduce the economic value of the property because of the lower rents. But as we went through it and we thought through the benefits and the opportunity, and as Aaron mentioned, we have not yet done this type of property, we're proud to be able to do that here, because we do think there's an opportunity and there's a need that we can service, not just because of the studios and the ones, but having the 2 and the 3-bedroom units with some larger units create that opportunity for wouldn't otherwise be there at these rents.
I do appreciate you doing the 13 units.
Thank you.
And for the first time, it sounds like.
Yes.
In any of your projects, and I hope that you'll continue to do that. Thank you.
We do too.
Lauren?
I think it's great. This campus-like feel sounds like a really good idea. And I'm glad that you guys are taking some steps toward being sustainable, especially with the bird mitigation stuff that's going to come before the board in a few meetings. I'm not sure what timeline is for that. I do, and I know that the drive-through issue is sort of a moot point right now because they're going to have to come back for permission again, but I just want to say yet again about drive-throughs. It is just a recipe for everybody idling, and I, for one, wouldn't want to live in an apartment or a townhouse that's right next to a drive-through because you just have this invisible cloud of carcinogenic gas accumulating in your drive-through. And now that you just approved the sustainability plan, which specifically mentions idling in a few places, I think that it sends kind of a mixed message to say, oh, well, idling's okay in a drive-through, but not while you're waiting for your kids. So I just want to say, please say no to the drive-through when it comes out.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. If we may have your name.
Jan Bellotti, longtime resident of Skokie. I'm very thrilled that you talk about your affordable percentage of affordable housing, but if it's not affordable to the people that need it, then what does it mean then? If it's not at a price that people with lower incomes can pay for, then it doesn't really mean anything. I know many other, like Evanston and other towns around are requiring apartment complexes to have a certain percentage of new construction to be built for affordable. It's just an requirement. It's not, can you do it? It's required. And I'm wondering if you had thought about putting some solar panels, because solar panels have gotten really cheap and you can get subsidized by the government, and that would make them a lot more sustainable.
Good evening. You all know me. I'm Carrie Bredan. I'm a Skokie resident. I have deep concerns, again, about the lack of affordable housing. I'm actually deeply uncomfortable with calling those 13 units affordable housing. I think that's a misnomer. With the current makeup of those units, we're looking at 96% of the units would be unaffordable to the median income household. 4% would be affordable to those with the median income household, and 0% affordable to anyone under the median household. That's not affordable housing. That's wealthy housing, and 4% for the average, the median, excuse me. And I am concerned that this keeps happening, that we get to this very final stage where a project is ready to go, and it's the first time we talk about affordable housing. I'm concerned that Skokie doesn't have a plan for this. This should have been talked about years ago when this plan was first started with the Plan Commission. There should be leadership from the village on this. This shouldn't be an afterthought where a bunch of us come up and say, another luxury housing development, where's the affordable housing? But it's too late to do anything about it now. I ask you all on the board to please take seriously the need for affordable housing in this community. Please take seriously the claim that Skokie welcomes everyone, because this isn't welcoming everyone. Thank you.
I am Gail Schechter, but 9033B Keating. I'm an 18-year resident of Skokie, and I also, although I'm not speaking in this capacity, I sit on the state housing board that administers or enforces the Affordable Housing Planning and Appeal Act. And while I know that Skokie is exempt from the act in having more than 10% affordable housing, the definition of affordable under that act for rental housing is 60% of the area median income. And for those of you who are wondering what 100% of the area median income is, that's $95,000 a year for a family of 3. So the amount changes depending on the family size. So it's not for low-income people at all. I mean, $95,000 is a fairly high income. So again, I would urge that in the spirit of what is meant by inclusionary zoning, that 15% of the development be affordable to people at 60% of the area median income. And, I'm familiar, I know Mr. Kerensky here might remember when I had run Open Communities for many years, and he was terrific on the Plan Commission of Winnetka, and so I know that there's definitely some knowledge among the developers about being able to do affordable housing. And then the second thing I wanted to suggest to this board is that you passed a wonderful sustainability plan And under the land use and housing part of the plan, LH11. So the number one thing in that plan is, and I quote, assess the community's affordable housing needs and determine how housing for low and moderate income households can become sustainable in accordance with the sustainability plan. So actually, our sustainability plan has a consideration for housing for low and moderate income people, either new or preserved housing. And so I would actually suggest that this go back to the Plan Commission for consideration about how this development will impact low and moderate income households in the village. And then finally, and this is pulling back a little bit from this development, this may be a good time to consider, so that what I just read is considered phase one of the implementation of the plan. So obviously that's the first thing that you're wanting to do, that village staff initiate a housing needs study as part of phase one of this environmental sustainability plan with analysis and policy recommendations. I think, you know, maybe it's, whether it's too late or not on this development, I think it's time to actually do that housing needs plan, because this, by the way, is going to be yet another development that's going to add hundreds of people who are going to go onto the Edens Expressway on top of the 500 units on Toohey, and then the others in Lincolnwood, the other, I don't know how many hundreds of units. So, so we have to consider what we're the consequences of the decisions that we're making. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, I had a couple questions about kind of some of the sustainability measures you described from the Tucker folks. You know, we're in kind of an awkward phase right now where we've approved a huge new sustainability plan, and yet a lot of the kind of long-term big goals have yet.
Excuse me, Trustee Johnson, can you speak clearer into the microphone?
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Like I wanted to ask, like one of our big goals in our sustainability plan is for new mixed-use development to really focus on like fuel switching, to not have on-site fossil fuel combustion and move to complete 100% electrification. I guess, like to what extent will these structures, you know, utilize gas lines and gas stoves as opposed to all electric?
Sure. We are certainly looking at that issue. We do in each of our projects. At this point, we have not determined whether we'll have gas or not, but I can tell you that we focus on the ability for the sustainability and use as much electric that makes sense economically.
Okay. In terms of the roofs of all the structures, you know, one of our long-term goals is to have a solar-ready ordinance that would either require on-site solar or at least kind of ensure that the site is solar-ready. Yeah.
And we are pursuing that.
Okay.
So we've, the structural design for the building is intended to, on day one, be solar ready.
Awesome. Good to hear. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to make sure I'm looking at Trustee Pure Slovan, so I don't.
Oh, and well, I'll say this is not really a question. It's more of just a comment. I kind of want to echo Ms. Schechter's recommendation that we really prioritize this first strategy and action step in our land use and housing section of our environmental sustainability plan. Strategy number one, action number one in this chapter is assess the community's affordable housing needs. I think this issue is going to keep coming up. We're going to have, I think, another luxury apartment development, maybe as soon as our next meeting. This kind of wave of luxury apartments and the impact that this has on renters in the community. I think now is really a perfect time to do a wider assessment of our community's affordable housing needs.
Well taken. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
I abstain.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein, Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rabbi Rubner.
Good evening, Rabbi Ralph Rubner. I assume from the Corporation Council's report that deconversion ordinance passed tonight on second reading?
Yes, sir.
And is there an effective date for that?
The effective date is upon passage, and there is a required publication or 2-week publication. So it is effective.
It's
but we-
effective tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank Mayor Van Dusen and the trustees, and especially Trustee Sutker, who first introduced this proposal back in September, and she has made this happen to become law tonight, so I really appreciate that. I also want to thank the Corporation Council, Michael Lorge and his staff, for accepting my constitutional analysis that you have broad authority under home rule to enact this law. As far as the impact of this ordinance, it is a great day for Skokie and to the so many towns and municipalities in Illinois, and really a model for the country. In this ordinance, you're protecting the most vulnerable citizens, including the elderly, those who are on fixed income, retirees, and people that have disabilities. And I think you don't get kudos often, so I like to say thank you. I want to say that you should be proud of yourselves tonight, and you've made a mark not only for Skokie, but for the country itself, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Michelle Pat. I'm a 20-some year resident of Skokie. And I just wanted to echo what some of the other comments had been about the concerns about not this current development that actually, you know, is of course, yes, ready to go, but these other developments that are going to come forward, and I appreciate Trustee Sutker's concerns about this continuing drive-through restaurant development that Skokie seems to be putting forward and what might happen in the future, and Trustee Johnson's concerns about the future of affordable housing in Skokie. I'm concerned about these continuing luxury developments that are not affordable for current Skokie residents. While it's commendable that the developer of this development will provide 13 units that are affordable at the medium income, as has already been said by other comments, that leaves 96% of this new development unaffordable to even the average area resident. And development after development is leaving no provision for lower income Skokie residents, including Skokie service workers, teachers, and retirees, to be able to live in any of these new buildings, and puts pressure on the rents of lower rent buildings that, now that Skokie is a luxury market, are pricing out long-term residents. I really encourage the village board to consider in the future looking into implementing inclusionary housing ordinances that require new developments to include a fixed percentage of units that meet actual affordability standards, and to join our neighbors in Chicago, Evanston, Highland Park, and even Lake Forest that are working to protect the rights of people to live in places that they can afford. And also, I'd really encourage the village board to, for all the reasons already mentioned, to look into limiting the continuing development of drive-through restaurants. understand business development is important. Everyone loves to be able to have the luxury of sitting in their car for 10 minutes and not have to get out to simply get a cup of coffee. But one idling car for 10 minutes pumps a pound of carbon into the environment. And after all of this wonderful work that Skokie's been doing on sustainability, this could be a very good next step to join other cities like Minneapolis and Long Beach and smaller towns and cities across the country that have looked to limit the pollution and the carbon emissions of drive-throughs. So look forward to the village board doing future work on these things.
Hi, my name is Sandra de Betancourt, and I'm a Skokie resident of nearly 40 years. My husband and I kind of prepared a little statement. Nearly 40 years ago, we purchased a home in Skokie. At the time, it was a small, sleepy town, and over the years, Skokie has grown and welcomed a diverse mix of people. Skokie welcomes economic growth and at the same time supports a progressive, forward-thinking social culture. I have not been a frequent attendee of village board meetings, but even when decisions were made that I disagreed with, I was impressed with a group of people who really love the village. The village board seems to me to be people who are doing their very best to navigate the conflicting needs of different groups. The board and the mayor have been engaged in the very unsexy work of getting things done and solving problems. And I hope this and future boards will continue the important work that has made Skokie the really thriving and diverse community it has become. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again. For the record, I'm Carrie Bredan. I'd like to give some comments in relation to the conversation about commissions. I ask that you please take seriously Trustee Johnson's comments about how this process has not been transparent or uniform. And I would like to share my personal experience with applying to commission as one illustration. I am very passionate about and focused on public safety and trauma prevention, and so I decided to apply to the Public Safety Commission. I'm a multilingual trauma therapist. I have specialized experience in crisis intervention, substance and alcohol abuse treatment, domestic violence, immigration, and community reintegration after incarceration. I've worked with police, hospitals, schools, homeless shelters, nonprofits, DCFS, probation, parole, local governments, lots of entities as a social worker to respond to and to prevent crises. I'm also a small business owner, and I have experience in policy and advocacy, community development, consulting, and program development and management. So that's a very brief synopsis just to say I came to this with a lot of passion about this. This is a thing that I'm very committed to. So when I applied to the Public Safety Commission on July 15th, 2021, there was nothing posted online about which commissions had vacancies, so I didn't know if there was a vacancy, but I was passionate and I wanted to serve. The next day, I received one email from Ann Tennis, Director of Marketing and Communications, saying that my application had been forwarded to the mayor, and another email from Vicki Varga in the mayor's office saying that she would contact me once the mayor had reviewed my application, and that he generally reviewed applications once a month. I responded to both emails with quick thanks. When I had not heard anything for well over a month, on August 24th, 2021, I emailed Ms. Varga to inquire, and she replied that the mayor had not yet reviewed applications and that she would talk with him. Again, I thanked her. On September 11th, now almost 2 months after I submitted my application, when I still had not heard anything, I was chatting with a friend and mentioning my application still pending. He had served on another commission, and so he emailed Corporation Counsel Michael Lorge, who had interviewed him when he was interested in a position. And my friend recommended to Mr. Lorge that I be appointed to the Public Safety Commission. Mr. Lorge replied that evening with instructions that I should email him directly. I emailed Mr. Lorge, and he replied quickly that someone would be in touch. This all, in fact, happened on a weekend. Mr. Lorge was very rapid to get back to me. On September 20th, Ms. Varga emailed me saying that there were no vacancies on the Public Safety Commission, but that the mayor would like to meet with me to discuss my interest in other possible commissions. Needless to say, I was disappointed to hear that it took over 2 months for anyone to notify me that there were not even vacancies on the commission. I did meet with Mayor Van Duzen on October 8th, and we discussed my interest and experience in public safety, and he told me there were no vacancies on the 2 commissions I was interested in, the Public Safety Commission and the Police Use of Force Review Board. He told me he would keep my interest in mind for the next vacancy. Once the village's website was updated to include a number of vacancies on commissions and showed a vacancy on the Public Safety Commission, I emailed the mayor and Ms. Varga on January 19th, 2022, asking that my application be considered for that vacancy. Ms. Varga replied that she would look into it, and I thanked her. I've never heard another word about it since then, 11 months ago. My own experience demonstrates how inefficient and unprofessional this process is, and I have heard from lots of other people that they have had similar experiences. This is not a one-off. I know lots of people who have tried to serve and have been given the brush off. So that comment that there's a lack of interested volunteers is just not accurate. We're out here. There is no transparency about when positions are available. The numbers finally went up on the website, but they're not in fact updated regularly. And there's no transparency about how decisions are made as to whom to appoint. It's telling that the only way I got a response was to know someone who knew someone. Without that, I never heard a word. That's not the way to create commissions that bring together a wide array of people with the diversity of experience and qualifications needed. When you are only keeping it in your small circle, you're not going to get the diversity you're looking for. And I'm sorry, Mayor Van Duzen, there's never a reason to pit different kinds of equity against each other. It's not race or gender, like you said in your comments earlier. Those are intersecting identities, and they're examples of women of color being kicked off of commissions. And it disregards the existence of really highly qualified women of color. So, moreover, I have heard and witnessed with my own eyes that commission positions are given out as part of political deals to gain support for the Skokie Caucus Party. I've overheard it personally. You shaking your head, I've overheard it personally happening. And in fact, I know of an applicant who was asked to join the Skokie Caucus Party in his interview for a commission position. These appointments should not be political, nor should they be entirely at the discretion of a single elected official. These commissions could do so much more if the people appointed to them were the ones actively engaged and experienced in the issues they are meant to address, who could advise based on their knowledge and experience, not on party loyalty. I want to be clear, this is not me complaining about not getting a commission position. I'm one person and this really isn't about me. Nor do I mean to imply that there are not highly qualified people on commissions. Lauren here is amazing. There are lots of very highly qualified people on these commissions. And I'm sure that lots of them are there doing what they love to do. But there's also this issue, you say, of people not showing up, not being as passionate. How many of those didn't come to this out of a passion? I think you would see that that issue of folks not showing up might be addressed if you had a more standardized process and if it were less about your inner circle. So this isn't about me. This is about a system that too often rewards political insiders and denies our village the skills and commitment of so many people who are outside that inner circle, but have the dedication and expertise to serve our village. It's beyond time to create a transparent, consistent process for advertising vacancies and interviewing and appointing those applicants most qualified and committed. Thank you.
The vacancies are updated every month, and it's on the website. I signed the memo, it goes to the village manager.
So that's new. That's new. That wasn't there long ago.
It's been there at least a year.
Ish, okay.
Yeah,
But they're not always updated quickly.
they're updated once a month. We have 2 village board meetings.
Okay.
And we appoint people at the village board meetings. So it'll be updated to reflect the appointments that are made this evening. In addition to that, if you look at the membership of the boards and commissions, you will find that very, very few are members of the Skokie Caucus Party. Very few. 95% are not. I have never asked anybody in an interview to join a party. I've never asked them what their party affiliation is. I don't care what a person's affiliation is.
Mr. Lorge has done that in
I-
interviews.
Not that I'm aware of. So I'm just
Okay.
telling you.
Okay.
And I'm the one who's doing the interviewing.
I'm telling you that he
Uh,
has interviewed folks for commission positions. You may not know that that's happening, but that's happening.
Okay, I'm not going to get into an argument with you. Let me just say, I take to heart your comments this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a parting comment myself. This is one of congratulations. I don't know if you saw in the news recently, but Lanzatech, which is a company in the Illinois Science and Technology Park, is a finalist in the Earth Shot contest, the international contest. Lanzatech is a pioneer in the recycling of carbon. Do not ask me to explain how they do it. They've tried to teach me. I'm obviously not a physicist or chemist, but I think Dr. Holmgren and Dr. Simpson should be proud of themselves. They're the only company in the United States that is a finalist. And I'm very proud of the work they do. And I'm proud of having had a small part in bringing them here. Their global headquarters was in New Zealand, and they moved from New Zealand to Skokie. And I think it says a lot of good things about the Illinois Science and Technology Park here in the village of Skokie. And I wish them the very best. Stay tuned. I think Thursday night we will know if they have actually won the contest. But being the only American company to be a finalist in this worldwide contest is quite a tribute to them. And so good luck, Dr. Holmgren. Good luck, Dr. Simpson. We hope you win. We're with you regardless. Trustee Sucker.
I move we adjourn.
We are adjourned.